All right, we're going to get started with the tutorial, and I'm going to talk about the cover a little bit and a little bit about the element that I'm going to put on the spine. So the cover is, again, the lay flat method that we like to use here at Country Craft Creations. And so I did it already. If you're not familiar with it, I do have a video link down below in the description that you can go to a tutorial on how to do it. It works with any size. You just need to just know the measurements that you're going to be making and then adjust accordingly. For this particular album, since it's 8 by 10 with a 2.5-inch spine, these are the measurements you will need. So the chipboard that I used is a heavyweight chipboard that I received in my design team package, and you will need 2 pieces that are 8 by 10, and you will need 1 piece that is 2.5 by 10, and that will be for the spine. The cardstock to cover, 2 pieces that are 10 by 12 will cover the front and the back chipboard pieces. The 5.5 by 12 will cover the spine piece, and then the 6 by 9 and 7/8 will cover the inside spine. Okay, so I did do that already. Made my beautiful lay flat cover, and that's what it looks like when it is all done. It's just gorgeous. Now I did go ahead and put some pattern paper on, so I chose this red. This came from the coordinated solids that came with my design team package. Before I laid that down, I did put the beautiful crinkle ribbon underneath it. So I did lay that down. It is 2 inches wide, so I just centered it and then put the paper over top of it. So I did that on the front and the back. And then on the back, I chose to go ahead and use this fox die cut with the butterfly. He looks like he's looking at something, so he needed something up here to kind of peek at. So there's a cute little mouse on that toadstool. Isn't that cute? And the little butterfly. So I did ink, and the ink that I used is the Catherine Pooler ink icing on the cake. So I did do that because it is vintagey, and I did use the craft artisan cardstock for the spine and everything. It really kind of needed that, so I did go ahead and do that. Now the spine piece for the middle, this one is pretty fun. The cardstock that I used is, I cut it at just under like a 1/16 of an inch under 2.5 inches. Okay, so that will cover the spine. And then what I ended up doing was using the burlap ribbon that came in my design team package, and I put down the center of it. And then what I ended up doing was putting score tape down the middle, and then I put some glue, and then I laid that burlap over it so that it would be nice and adhered. And then the ends, I just did the same thing. I used some score tape and a little bit of glue, and I just glued that down. And then that will go ahead and cover the outside spine of the book. Now this is a chipboard die cut that I got. Now this was actually one of the frames, and it was an oval frame, and for some purposes that I was going to use the frames for, it wasn't going to work. So, but I did love the butterflies that were around that frame. So I ended up using my X-Acto knife, my straight edge, and cutting it around the butterfly. After I cut that piece off, then I went ahead and just glued that over the spine piece right in the center. And that's what's going to be on the spine. I didn't attach it yet because I want to attach the pages first. And I thought that this might be a little bit wobbly if I put this on and then tried to attach the papers on the inside spine. So I decided to leave that off for now, but I will glue that on later. I did ink the edges. I did ink the edges of the die cut as well. Okay, so I'm just going to set that off to the side for now. So the cover, essentially, except for the front, is done. Now the front piece, we're going to go ahead and look at that right now. After I show you, this is just what the inside looks like, and it's all bare because we need to add the things to it. Okay, so essentially this is done. Let's look at the element that I'm putting on the cover. I'm doing an interactive cover, which there's been a couple of times where we have done that, and it works out really, really well. So what you're going to need for that is we're going to make a waterfall, and we're going to use some seam binding with that, and have some flaps that kind of overlap that. So it's going to look really cool, I think. So for the waterfall, you need some cardstock. You will need a piece that is 6 by 10.5, a piece that's 6 by 9.5, and then one that is 6 by 8.5. Then we're going to put some flaps kind of over it as a cover, and we'll need a base. So the 2 flaps we'll need out of our artisan cardstock are craft colored. One that's 6 by 7.5, one that's 6 by 6, and one that is 6 by 8. The 6 by 8 is going to be the base. So that will kind of be the back of this assembly that we're going to add to the cover. Then we're going to need a frame out of our die cuts, and I chose this one. It's going to fit perfectly for our purposes. And then we are going to need 1 piece of craft cardstock that is 3 1/4 by 5.5. Okay, so don't worry about, I mean, I've got this all written down in the video description. You can obviously stop and take a picture of this as well if you would like to do that, or pause and write this all down, however you want to do it. But all of this will be down below as well. So I'm going to put that off to the side for now. I'm going to take my die cut. I'm going to put that off to the side. This is the piece of cardstock that will go to the die cut. And again, this piece is 5.5 by 3 1/4, and we're just going to put it in our scoreboard. And I've kind of already done this, but we're going to put it in our scoreboard, 5.5 at the top. We're just going to score it 1/2, and then you're going to just fold and burnish that. Okay, so we'll put that off to the side. Put that with your frame. Okay. You also saw that I had cut out some coordinated solids, and we're going to need these to assemble everything. So I used the green out of this one. This one is 5 7/8 by 6 7/8. And then this piece here, I ended up, basically what I did was I cut it off of the same strip. So if you look at the paper and you put it kind of sideways, you can see that the whole thing itself is 12 1/4. And so what I'm going to do for one flap, I'm going to use the map side, but for the other flap, I'm going to use the opposite side because it had that great edge on here, which is supposed to show you what's on the other side. We're not going to use this side. We're going to use this side, and it made it exactly what I needed lengthwise to cover the flaps. So again, this one is 5 7/8, and it is 5 3/8 tall. So if you don't want to use this paper in this way, that's what size you need to cover that. Okay, so then since we were talking about the base and the flaps, the base that is 6 by 8, we are not going to score. Okay, so we'll put that off to the side for now. Then we have one flap that is 7.5 by 6. We're going to put it with the 7.5 at the top. We're going to score it half, and that will be, of course, folded and burnished. And then the second piece, the second flap, will be 6 by 6. And we're going to put it in the scoreboard. We're going to score at 1/2 inch, fold and burnish. Okay. You will also need 2 pieces of seam binding, and I cut these at about 14 inches long, so we'll need that. So let me get this out of the way, and then let us find our score tape, because we need that, and get some stuff taken care of. Okay, so first thing, let's grab our base and our 2 flaps. All right, so grab some scissors. We're just going to miter the flap 1/2 inch pieces. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to glue those to the back of your base. Okay, so we're just going to glue our base on there so that the flaps will be on the back side. Okay, so we'll grab our glue. And I'm going to put that right to the edge there, right to the score line, and fold that over. Make sure that's burnished down well. Again, that will be the back side. So we've got one that'll go to this shorter one is on the bottom. The taller one will go to the top, and again, that will also be glued to the back side. Okay, so I'm going to grab my glue again. Now, I don't have all the pattern papers cut out for this project because I will do some after the fact, but there are some pattern papers that kind of need to go on first, so that I can show you how the elements go together. So some of these I will do on camera with you, but others I won't. When I do cut my pattern papers, they are 1/8 inch smaller than the pieces that they're covering. So that's how I generally cut them out. So we have the first flap, okay? The taller flap goes on the top, the smaller flap goes on the bottom. And then let's turn it over to the back side and let's see. I'm going to add some seam binding to the bottom piece first, okay? So make sure you got the bottom. Back of the bottom is right here, and we're going to put some score tape down and add our seam binding to that, okay? So that's going to be on the back side of this assembly, and it's 6 inches, so the middle will go here, the 0 point, and then it will be 3 inches on either side. And then we will get our seam binding and put that down. Now this is actually going to get glued to the front cover and make an interactive cover, okay? Now I always like to put a little extra score tape on there just to make sure everything's good. Okay, and then we'll flip that over. The next thing that we are going to do with this is we're going to put our pattern paper on right here, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and glue that down. Okay, so again, I've inked it and I've cut it 1/8 inch smaller than the piece it's covering, so you'll have a nice little 1/16 inch of a piece. Oops, didn't need 2 of those. 1/16 of an inch of border all the way around, okay? Like so, okay? The next thing, let's go ahead, just while we have it here, we'll go ahead and put this piece onto that paper right there. And I just think that makes a really cute little border and ties everything in. So I'm just going, you know, it gives you a little extra space there, right? Okay, so I'm going to open this up so I can see the actual top edge of it. And lay that down. Make sure it's straight. Okay. So far we have our flaps on, they're covered with pattern paper, and then we have the bottom piece on. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our die cut, and I did need to ink that, or I did ink it, I should say. So I just ran my ink piece over that, and I think I might have missed the inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I want my edges inked. It kind of covers up the chipboard because I don't like bare chipboard usually. So I either cover it up with paper or I try to ink it. I think I need a new pad too. But I'm just going to go around and ink all of that, okay? So that is the photo map, but I kind of want it to be easy to put the photo underneath. So here's what we're going to do. This is where this little piece comes in. So this is the piece. It's going to go behind this frame, and it's going to glue down, and then we're going to leave it open so that you can flip it open. You can put your photo down, and then you can go ahead and adhere it down later, okay? So what we're going to do with this is we have that fold there and that 1/2 inch tab. I'm going to use that, and we're going to make it into a hinge. So it's going to glue to the top edge of this die cut, okay, so that we can flip it up. That's why when I was looking at the die cuts for what I wanted to do, I need die cuts, these large frame die cuts with a flat edge. And so that's why I ended up sacrificing that oval one that came in the kit and used that on the spine, because that was going to be hard to make a hinge with it. So I'm just going to put the glue on that 1/2 inch piece, and then I'm going to center this over that, and I'm going to put it right to the top edge of my die cut on the back. Okay, so it's going to line up right to that top edge. So that way it basically gives us a photo mat and then a hinge right there. Okay, so when we glue this down onto our piece, we're going to line it up. We're going to glue that photo mat down, and then our frame will flip up like that. And that's how we're going to be able to put our photo down and do that. And then what we're going to do to kind of further prep it is we're going to put some score tape on the frame on the back side, and then we're going to put our closure, okay, on the back of that. And then that's how all of this is going to stay closed. And then when you're ready, you will be able to put your photo down. We'll take the score tape off, and then you can glue that down at a later time. But everything will stay nice and tidy until then, okay? So I'm going to take my score tape, and I'm going to put, but we're not going to take we're not going to take the tape off, okay? We're just going to leave it in place and get it, you know, have it ready to go. Okay, I found my little tear tool. If you don't want to rip it, you know, you can do that. So I'm just going to put some score tape around. Then I'll put a couple little extra pieces here, because at a later date, you're going to want to glue this down, adhere it down, and it'd be nice just to have, you know, some areas ready to go, okay? There we go. Let's put one down here. Okay. Now, oh, you know the other thing we're going to do? We're going to put our seam binding down, which I totally forgot to do. So we're going to take this off for just a sec, okay? I'm going to take those bottom two off, and I'm going to try and figure out where my center is on this by using my ruler, and I'm going to try to find the center of the die cut, which is just shy of like 6 inches. It's right to the edge of 6 inches. So I'm going to find that center point, because we want the center point to match the center point where the other seam binding is going, right? And I'm going to lay that down right about at the 0, and then I'm going to go ahead and put score tape over that again. Okay. Okay. All right. So we've got extra pieces of score tape around, so when it's time, we can take that score tape off and glue that down, okay? So then all that's left to do is just glue the back of that photo frame down and center that right there, okay? I hope this makes sense. So if you can imagine, it's glued down, you can flip it up. This is ready to go when you put your photo in, and then when you're got your photo here, take that off, and then you can stick this down. And the whole time, this will help keep everything closed, and also, you know, it'll be pretty, right? I hope that makes sense. I'm just sitting here going, oh my gosh, I hope I'm explaining this properly. Alrighty, so I'm going to put glue just on the cardstock, okay? Just on the cardstock, because we want it to still be a flap, right? Till we get our photo in there. And then I'm going to hold this carefully, and I'm just going to eyeball it. And I know I'm off camera here for a second, but I will put it back. And I'm just going to put that down. And the die cut will pretty much go all the way across because the die cut is pretty big, but there's that. Okay, then you just lift that up. You've got your photo mat there, put your picture behind, score tape down, and voila, you've got the cover element. Okay, but there's more. Wait, there's more, right? So get the waterfall pieces and get your scoreboard. These pieces are all 6 inches and they're all going to be scored exactly the same. Okay, I've already pre-scored them. You can tell that. So I want to make sure I score them in the proper direction. Okay, so they're all 6 inches. You have a 10.5, a 9.5, and an 8.5 piece. You're going to put them all on your scoreboard. You're going to score them at 4, and then you're going to turn it completely around, and then you're going to score at 4 again. Okay, all 3 of those pieces. Every time you do that, this is a stacked waterfall. You're going to end up with a kind of a spine or middle piece, and each one will be smaller and smaller and smaller. Once you score them, fold and burnish, like so. Okay, and then you'll end up with all 3 pieces. So you can see that all of the spines are a little bit different. So then we're just going to line them up and glue them down. Okay, there will be a 1/2 inch space in between your pages, so a 1/2 inch gusset. And this is another reason why I was really kind of excited to start trying this grid, because it actually has measurements on here, which is super, super nice. So lay the one with the widest spine down, get the one with the next widest spine, put glue on that piece. And I also have a pretty in-depth video on stacked waterfalls and how to figure it out for different sizes and whatnot. So you can go check that video out. I'll have a link down below. I'm lining this up on my grid, and I'm going to go to the 1/2 inch mark here, and then just make sure everything's nice and straight and lay that down. And then always go back, be gentle, and then lay that down. Make sure there's no glue seeping where you don't want it, right? Okay. And then, so then you can see you have a nice 1/2 inch gusset there. Okay. Then what you're going to do is do that again. So grab the next piece. It has a 1/2 inch gusset. You're going to just put glue on that 1/2 inch. And we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to line this up, and we're going to put this a 1/2 inch in. Make sure your pages are nice and straight. And that's all you need to do to make a stacked waterfall. Pretty easy. So all of the pages will be 4 by 6, so that's really a nice size. Okay. And then when you fold this whole thing over, you have 6 pages of photo space, which is nice. So then we're going to take this, we're going to open this back up. Okay. And we're just going to glue this to the inside of this. And then that will be our interactive waterfall front cover feature. Okay. So you'll have room for a photo here. You'll have, you know, ample space up in here on this flap, and then you have all of this underneath too. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue it to the inside using the widest, you know, spine behind that waterfall. Okay. And just glue that down to the top edge. Okay. I'm going to make sure I'm not in the score line of this base so that it, you know, closes nicely. So I'm just going to go right to the top of that base underneath that flap, making sure all my pieces line up. And I'm just going to close this and make sure that closes nicely, and it does. Okay. Now I'll show you another little trick too in the meantime for that flap. Okay. There you go. So there is that. Okay. Now, this is a little floppy. So if you have a repositional tape runner, you could use this, put a little repositional tape on here, and then stick that down, and that will kind of help keep everything in place, okay? It's temporary, it will come off. So that folds up, and then this will tie in a cute little bow here. Okay, be a pretty little decorative element, and then this is going to go on the front cover. I will tie that and cut that later. So let's take our cover out and show you this is what it's going to look like, okay? I think it's really, really a fun and easy idea, and it's really kind of cool to have, you know, something on the front cover, and then there's lots of area to put photos in here, okay? So, but I'm going to add this later when I add my spine. So we're not going to glue it down yet, but this is done and complete and ready to go. For the inside front cover, we are going to need a few pieces of cardstock. You will need 2 that are 7 3/4 by 6, 2 that are 5 by 6.5, and then 1 that is 6 by 5, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of our pieces. Now, all of our pieces are going to be scored the same. We are going to get our scoreboard. The 2 that are 5 by 6.5 on the 5, you're going to put it with the 5 at the top, score it 1/2. So you will need 2 of those. This piece is 6 by 7 3/4 on the 6-inch side. You're going to score it 1/2. You will need 2 of those. And then you have the one that is 6 by 5 on the 5-inch side of this one. We will score at 1/2 inch. Okay. This last piece, the one single 6 by 5, put that off to the side, because what I did was I grabbed a frame, and this is the frame I used, and this is going to be another photo mat for behind that piece. And we're going to do basically the same thing as we did with the front cover. So let's get this out of the way. We're going to miter, fold, and burnish all 4 of these, and I will do that, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay. Okay, so I have all of my flaps mitered and folded. So what we're going to do is get our cover, and we're going to, on the inside front cover is where these are going to go. So we're going to put the top flaps, or the bigger flaps, at the top and the bottom, and the smaller flaps underneath at the side, okay? So all you're going to do is get your ruler, and this is 10 inches tall. So center that, and then grab, we're going to start with the smaller flaps on the side. Okay, and these are going to line up at 3 1/4 on the side like that, okay? Now, once you measure that first one, you can go ahead and do the second one and use that as a guide. And then that way, if you're, you know, you're off a little bit off center, it won't matter, because it will be the same height here, okay? So I'm just going to, you know, we're just going to match it up. And then when you put this one on the right side, you just want to make sure, oops, I'm going to move this over here. You want to make sure that you don't put it in the score line, okay? So just make sure that you put it a little bit farther away from the fold there at the spine, okay? And just make sure it's not going to impede in anything. And then we'll glue that down, okay? Let's open this up, make sure it's adhered down. Okay. All right. Like so. So those are the 2 inside flaps. And then we're going to put our seam binding on next on the bottom. Okay. So let's turn this guy to the bottom. Let's get our ruler. And this one, the center will be at 4 because it's 8 inches wide. And we're going to put some seam binding down. then we will go ahead and grab one of our pieces of seam binding and put that down. Okay. And then let's go ahead, and I like to put tape across. Makes me feel better. I don't know that it's probably necessary, but I do it anyway. And then let's grab one of those bigger ones, and then this one here will adhere to the bottom. So this is 7 3/4 inches wide, so it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch in from the left edge, okay, when you glue it down. So we're going to just take that one piece of score tape off, leave this other one on for now, because we're not going to put on a lot of pattern paper yet. I'm going to do that later. This will go, and I'm using my pad here for that, and then I'm just going about 1/8 of an inch in and gluing it all the way to the bottom, and then that'll help secure that seam binding down. And it won't kind of rip through your papers because it has that extra layer of cardstock. Okay, so that'll be your bottom flap. Now the top flap, we're just going to put that down, and again we're just going to line it up with the bottom one. So I'm just going to turn it to the side again. Sorry if I'm making you seasick. I'm trying not to. And we're going to lay that down just like so. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and put that down. And we're going to go right to the top of the cover. Okay, so we have that piece ready to go. So basically what you have now on the inside cover is you have two very large flaps, lots of photo opportunity for here, okay? And then that'll fold like that and like that. Then what we're going to do is use that frame again for this piece. So I chose this piece of paper. I love this plaid. It has the butterflies on the back. We're going to use the butterflies on the inside flaps. But I chose the plaid for the outside because, you know, this frame is going to cover, you know, most of it. Okay. Now the frame will stick out the side of your flap a little bit. If that bothers you, you can cut that off. It's not going to bother me at all. So what I'm going to do is, if you look at this, when this lays down, a little tiny bit of the wing and a little tiny bit of the flower is going to stick past that flap. It's not going to impede your spine at all. It's not going to bother it. So I've inked all the edges of my chipboard piece. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay this down after we put seam binding in the middle of the flap, okay? So we're just going to put it on the flap this time instead of behind the chipboard, which I could have probably done on the other page, but I didn't. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry, guys. I think I just knocked the camera. Okay. So I'm going to measure, the middle of this would be 3 7/8. Put my seam binding down. And then this project is big because it is an 8x10 album. And put my tape down. I stuck it down pretty good. And then I'm going to put that plaid right down on that, okay? Okay. Don't you just love the colors of this? And I like the pops of blue and green in here. I just think it's adorable. Okay. So that goes like that. So, I am rethinking because I need to make sure that this will actually flip, and it's not going to with the wing in the way. So what we're going to do with this is I am going to have to trim my bird. I kind of need to I need a flat edge. So I don't know whether it's better to make the top flat and cut the top of the wing off, or cut off this whole thing, which I'm trying to decide which would be easier. Let me see. I need a piece of paper. So would it look better if I cut all of that off, or if I cut that off? And I think I'm going to cut the top off, because then I have more of my bird. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You need a flat edge to do this technique, okay? So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife. There's a little nubbin right here, and I'm just going to real gently just cut that little nubbin off. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the wing. So I'm just going to use my ruler just to make sure I'm kind of straight here. And I'm going to cut his little wing. I'm sorry. I feel bad. I feel bad, but it's okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and re-ink those little pieces. Okay. So that's what we have now. All right. I'm just going to trim that little thing up. Then here's our mat for behind. So we just scored it, and we're going to use that as the hinge. That will glue right to the top back there. And then we are going to go ahead and lay that down as originally planned. But we had to cut the little top of the wing off so that we could flip this up, right? So I'm going to put glue on that 1/2 inch tab. And we're going to put this down so that it covers that hole. And it's going to, that hole, the frame, you know, the hole in the frame. And we're going to put it right to the top edge of that die cut. Okay. Right to the edge. Man, I feel like I am all over the place today. I think I say that a lot. I always get nervous when I'm filming because I want to make sure I'm doing a good job for you. Okay, so there we go. We have that. And then we're going to finish it up by doing all of the same things we did before, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put some score tape around. We're going to glue this to the back, and then we're going to use our removable adhesive just to kind of keep it in place for us, okay? So first off, let's just go ahead and put glue on this and then glue that down. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball center everything. Okay. Like so. Okay. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and put, oh, this is a big book. My desk is getting smaller as I'm making it. We're going to put some score tape down. And where is my, I guess I could just rip it like I usually do. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. Okay. Do that. Put a little extra because I want to. And I'll go ahead and put a strip here. I just want to make sure, and once you put the picture in and you adhere it down, you could always use glue too. you know, that's totally an option that it'll work, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put some repositional right there, and let's see what happens. Okay. Go ahead and stick that down for now, okay? It's going to work. It's going to work. Okay. So there you go. So I can finish the rest of that later, but then this will go up and tie like so, okay? So that's what we're going to do there. I do have some papers cut out ready to finish that, so I'm just going to tuck those in here for now, and we'll be good to go with that, and I'll show you that when we're done. Let's talk about the back cover. Inside back cover, we are going to do some pockets and some booklets, and I've got a fun newish technique for making a really fun pocket that I want to share with you. So for the pockets, you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock that are one that's 9 by 6 and one that is 9 by 3.5. And then we're going to make some booklets, so you have lots of photo opportunities. One that's 12 by 8, one that's 4 by 12, and then 2 that are 6 by 4. Okay. So I've already cut some pattern papers because I want to show you how to do those pockets. So we've got the piece of paper that is going to be for the back cover. We've got the back piece of pattern paper, and this is cut at 7 7/8, and then it's a piece, so it's not going to go all the way into the pocket. So we're going to use the tape trick. So this is 8 5/8. So we've got that piece. We need a piece of pattern paper that is 7 7/8 by 5 3/8. And then we have 7 7/8 by 2 7/8. These are our little booklets, so I'm going to put those off to the side. Let's grab the pockets. The pockets are going to be scored. We're going to put it with the 9 at the top. We're going to score at 1 and 8.5, and then turn, score at 1/2. For the other smaller pocket, we're going to again put it with the 9 at the top, score at 1 and at 8.5, and then we're going to turn it 3.5 at the top, score at 1/2. Then we are going to miter, fold and burnish. So I'm going to just miter those 1/2-inch pieces. I'm going to cut clean through at like a 45-degree angle at the bottoms to take out some bulk from the pockets. All right, so that pocket is done. Let's do this pocket. Okay, then we will go ahead and we're going to fold and burnish. On longer scores, I try to go from the middle out because it tends to give you a straighter fold line and a straighter score. So I like to do that. Okay, so we have our pockets. And then what we need to do is grab our 2 pieces of paper, and I did forget to ink, so let me do that real quick. I'll be back. So I have that done. So here's what we're going to do. So this is the back of the cover. We're going to put that off to the side. Here's for the bigger pocket, okay? And then this one is for the smaller pocket. So let's put that smaller pocket off to the side. We're going to do the same technique for these, but I really want to show you how to do this. This is really kind of cool. So before we glue this down, what we're going to do is take our repositional tape, and I'm going to put a little bit down because what we're going to do is we're going to punch, and then we're going to take this off and then reset it with glue. And I'm going to center it side to side, but I'm going to put it clear to the top of that pocket, okay? I want this clear to the top of the pocket, okay? So you have the edges over the side. Here's the top of the pocket, and it's even with that. We're going to punch these at the same time with the envelope punch board. And then that way, You don't have to try to remeasure and hope that you did it in the right spot to have your pattern paper fit. It'll all fit because it's all being punched at the same time. We just have to move it down a little bit. So as you can see, the bottom has a wider bit showing because we have pushed it all to the top. But once we punch it, we're going to take this off and lower it down. We'll have a nice edge up here showing the cardstock. It'll be matted perfectly, and the punches are going to line up. So get your envelope punch board. Okay. And what we're going to do first is we're going to put this in, and we're going to line up the edge. Now, my pocket is folded in. Okay, so all my tabs are folded in. We're going to make sure everything is still up at the top, and we're going to put it at 1.5 inches. Okay, everything is at the top. Punch. Okay. Then what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over, line it up at 1.5 inches, and punch. All right. So you have, that's what you have right now. Then let's take this out of the way. Grab your cutting mat and a straight knife. Okay. And we need to cut this section out. So we're going to line this up using our straight edge. And I don't use that other side because I can't see very well around that line that I'm supposed to actually use, but you know, that's me. So I'm going to just cut this off straight. Now you can use your cutter if you wish. You know, I like to use that. Just cut that off and get rid of that. Okay. Once you're done with that, grab your envelope punch board again. Okay. Now what we're going to do is center this, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but it is super easy to do. So if you look at the center of this pocket is 8 inches across. So the center means that this side would be lined up at 4, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put this in here, but you're going to have to nudge up these sides over your scoreboard, or over the, the ruler part of your scoreboard, so that that middle piece is butted up against here, okay? Does that, I hope that makes sense. I hope you can see. Let me double check and make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so the edge of this should be lined up at the 4, okay? So we got it at the 4. Everything is up at the top. Punch again, okay? Now let's get rid of all of this. So that's what you should have now. Okay, so we have this cute extra little divot, which makes a really pretty decorative edge. We can pop this off because this was just reusable. And then if we just scooch that down, now you have perfect punches for matting your pocket. Okay, so the only thing you need to do now is we have inked, so we need to ink those cut edges. So I'm just going to redo that. Okay, and then we can glue that down. All right, so that's pocket 1. I'll go through it one more time with the middle pocket, or the smaller pocket, I should say. It's really easy. Again, we're going to put some repositional tape on here because we don't want it moving around while we're trying to punch. Make sure you got your top of the pocket. We're going to put that down, center it side to side, but have it all the way at the top edge. Okay, all the way at the top edge. So again, we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to line the edge of the pocket up at 1.5, punch, turn it over, 1.5, punch. Get rid of this for a hot second. Cut that middle piece out. Grab your envelope punch board again. This is the same width as the other pocket, so we're going to just line that up at the 4 inches again, okay? Make sure everything, the top tabs are over that ruler part. Everything else is up against the edge like it's supposed to be. Punch. Then you've got that middle section punched out, and your paper will line up perfectly, okay? So we'll take that off. We're going to re-ink those cut edges. And then we can glue that down, okay? These are going to be stacked pockets. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these off to the side for just a second and grab our book, because I want to put these in and then put the pattern paper on. So I'm going to turn this to the side, I think, so I can see, maybe? I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. All right. So grab your top pocket. And since the paper is not going to go all the way down in there, we're going to need to do the tape trick. This is going to go side to side, and it's going to go all the way to the edge on the right side and on the bottom, okay? So we're just going to glue this bottom piece first. And I'm going to just line that up, corner, the bottom. Okay, making sure that it's going to go all the way to the edge there. I'm going to open that up, and then I'm going to put some tape down, and I'm going to put a couple pieces here because you can see there's different bumpies here. So I'm going to put one here on the bottom, so the bottom of that tab, and then I'm going to put another one over top of that to cover where we covered our chipboard. And that will help our tags not get caught up when we're trying to put, you know, like our booklets and everything in there, okay? Like so. Then we can go ahead and glue those up. Okay, first one down. The second pocket, this paper is going to go all the way down, so we don't need to worry about doing the glue trick with this one. But if you're going to use a piece of paper that doesn't go all the way down into the pockets, then you do have to worry about that. So since the piece of paper I cut is going to cover the pocket that this one is going to stack on top of, I'm not going to worry about it, because the pattern paper will cover those tabs, okay? So I'm just going to glue all of those and just stack that right on top of that pocket. And again, right to the bottom edge, okay? It'll just be a nice stacked pocket. All right. So then all that's left to do is put the pattern paper in. So we're just going to tuck that in to that pocket. See how it's not going to go all the way to the bottom if I push it all the way to the bottom? So that's why we did the tape trick on that one. So we're just going to pull that back up. And I'm going to center it to make sure that it's lined up nice. I'm going to hold it down with one hand, and I'm going to put glue here. If I do it where I put glue on the pattern paper, I will get it over everything, and I will glue my pocket shut, and I will be unhappy, and I will cry. So this is why I do it this way. The pockets will keep the bottom piece of that paper down. You do not have to worry about that. And there you go. Okay. like so. Okay, second piece, that's going to go into this pocket here. Now this one will go all the way down. There we go. Oops. Like so. All right, and I'm just lining up my perfectly placed punches. And again, lifting that up. I was having a little difficulty because I didn't take the repositional tape off. This particular one that I'm using doesn't like ball up and stuff, but it does, you know, it still sticks because, you know, it's tape, right? But it's low tack and it's not going to hurt anything if you don't take it off. You can, if you want, just take it off before you put the paper down, but you don't necessarily have to. Okay, so there's that. And then last but not least, we have our other little piece here that matches perfectly, okay? So we're just gonna put glue on this one. Like so. All right, there's that, okay? So, all right, there's our pocket. All right, so the inserts. I don't have the pattern papers picked out for them yet, but I will, and you'll have seen that in the walkthrough. So this is 12 by 8 on the 12, score at 6. We have the 12 by 4 or 4 by 12. We're going to put it with the 12 at the top, score it at 6. And then we have the two pieces that are 6 by 4 with the 6 at the top, score at 3. Okay, so do that with both of those. And these are going to be our little inserts for those pockets that we just created. So you're just going to fold them in half, make sure that they're nice and lined up, and burnish, okay? Like so. There's that one, and then the last one. Like so. So then if we get our book, we're going to have the big one will go in the big pocket here, and then the other 3 are going to go in the smaller pocket here. Okay? So that's that. Now, let's look at the next piece. All right, we're going to make 4 pages for this album, and they're all going to be made the same, but we're going to put different elements on each one. So there are 4 pieces that are 12 by 9 3/4. Okay, so just make 4 of those. And then we're going to, I have 3 of them already prepared. So we're going to take this 4th piece, and I'll show you how they're all done. They're all done the same. So you put it with the 12 at the top, and I am using the L-hinge method. So we're going to score on the 12 at 1/2, at 3/4, and then we're going to score at 8 1/4, okay? So the 1/2 inch will glue to the spine. The 1/4 inch is a give space, so it helps with all the elements we're going to put on the pockets to kind of be nicer and turn better and accommodate the space that extra things will take. And then this 8 1/4 inch, that's going to end up being a flap on the back side of the page, okay? So once you get those done, go ahead and we're going to fold and burnish. Okay, both of these need to be folded and burnished, and we do not miter any of this. Okay, keep these nice and straight. Do not miter them. Okay, like so. And then, so that's the spine and the give space. And then this flap here will go to the back, like so. Okay, like I said, we're going to be using those flaps in different ways, okay? So we have 4 of those pages ready to go. So then we just have to put the elements on the pages. Get rid of this for a second. So let's talk about page 1. So page 1, we have a pocket for the front that is 3.5 by 10 3/4, and then a booklet that is 12 by 8. On the back of page 1, we have a large flap that is 5 by 9 3/4, and then a small flap that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Okay, so let's go through these pieces and talk about them. So we're going to score the pocket. Let me find my Dealy Whomper again. We're going to score the pocket with the 10 3/4 at the top. We're going to score at 1/2, at 10 1/4, and then turn and score at 1/2. Okay, and then the booklet for the front of page 1, excuse me, the booklet for the front of page 1, 12 by 8, score at 6. Okay. While we are at it, we are going to score the other 2 pieces, and then we'll get those together. I am using a magnet closure for the back of this, so do be aware that I am using that. So for the back, we've got a small flap that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. On the 5 3/8, score at 1/2. And then the large flap is 5 by 9 3/4. On the 5, score at 1/2. Okay, I'll get rid of this. And then we're going to fold and burnish and miter. So this large flap, this is for the back of page 1. Okay. I always thought we needed a song for the fold and burnishing and stuff, don't you? I think we do. Okay, there's one flap. Here's the small flap. So again, miter, fold and burnish. That's for the back. For the front, we have the booklet, so we're just going to fold, just making sure that all of our edges meet nicely. Okay. And then we have our pocket, so we're going to just do the miter on the corners there like we've always done with our pockets. So again, sharply through the 2 bottom miters, okay, through the corners so that it takes up some bulk. And then we'll fold and burnish these. And again, this is a very long score line, so when you fold it, I like to do it kind of gentle at first. Go from the middle out, because that tends to help you keep a straighter fold, okay? So these are for the front page. So let's grab one of our pages that we've already prepared. Put those over here for now. So the flap, the folded flap is to the back. This is the front, okay? So the front is going to have a long pocket, which is going to be put on this right side. So I'm going to do the tape trick because I'm not sure if my pattern paper is going to go all the way into the pocket or not. So I'm just going to prepare it just in case. So I'm just going to glue the long side down first. Like so. I'm hoping to get this tutorial filmed quickly because well, maybe even starting tomorrow, they're going to be painting our house. And there's going to be lots of noise, I think. And I want to get this filmed before that all happens. So we're going to just glue those sides up and the pocket will be ready. Very easy peasy, but a lot of room for photos, right? And the other thing I like about this size of book is that if you go on vacation, for example, if you're using this for a vacation and you collect brochures from places, you can easily put this in the book because the pockets are big enough, the pages are big enough. This booklet is going to tuck in there, and that's it. okay? So then we're going to turn it over. We're going to work on the back side of this page, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this top flap, or this, I'm sorry, we're going to take this long flap and we're going to glue it just right to this side, okay? So it has 2 long flaps, okay? So I'm putting it to the inside of that second score, okay? So right to the edge of that give space score, not in it. I want to make sure that this folds properly, right? So just make sure that it doesn't encroach that. Okay. Okay, easy peasy, right? So then what we're going to do is actually, this one is going to go over the top here. This flap is going to go here, and we're going to do a magnet closure. But I had an idea that I really wanted to try. And so we're going to do something maybe a little fancy. We're going to use tags to actually use that. So what I'm going to do, and we're going to, this is an experiment and I haven't tried it yet. So you're going to see what happens when we do it on camera. How's that sound? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to cut these tag shapes into this piece here that's going to create the flap. Okay. So what I need to do first is I'm going to put, I'm going to do that. Okay. So first what I'm going to do is take one of my magnet pieces and I'm going to put it on the back for the closure. Okay. Because I think I need to, that's just what we're going to do. Okay, so let's line this up at 4 7/8 from the corner, because what I'm trying to do is find out where the magnet needs to go, okay? This flap centered will be just about, is that right? 2 1/8. Okay, so then I'm going to take a pencil. I've got my my flap lined up where I want it. I'm going to grab my pencil and I'm going to just draw a little line just so I know where that edge is going to go, okay? Where the end of that pocket is going to be, because I want my magnet, like, you know, somewhere not too far past it. So I think what I'm going to do is put it right about here, I think. I think that'll work. Okay? All right. So I'm going to set my magnet on that part first. Then I'm going to take, I hope I'm not being too confusing. I'm going to take this, I'm going to trim my tags. And sometimes on these tags, not all the time, but sometimes they are a little bit off on the back side, but it's not going to matter because this isn't going to show, okay? So I'm going to trim that. And then what I want to do is I want to put this up against, kind of like what I did with the envelope punch board. I'm going to center this, use some repositional tape. Okay, so I'm going to center this side to side and put it all the way to the top. Okay. And then what I need to do is trim those pieces out. Okay. So I'm literally going to go to the edge and I am just going to cut those out. Okay. And I'm cutting clear through the tab, and then we can go ahead and just remiter that. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to just make sure I didn't shift anything, and I'm going to cut these out. I'm just being very careful. I'm just matching where that tag goes. And I probably, you know what, I should use my littler scissors, because that would be the smart thing to do, right? They're a little more dainty, a little easier to use, okay? And then I'm just going to cut this off, okay? So you can see how I've done that, okay? Then what we're going to do is this piece right here is going to go to the back. So I don't know if I want to just use the tags or use the journaling part. I think what I'm going to do is use the tags. So that's going to be on, this is going to be on the front. This is going to be on the back when you turn it. Okay. So what I need to do is make sure that these cuts match this and this, right? So I'm going to lay this down. And I want to make sure that this actually matches everything. So it still has the repositional tape on there. I'm making sure that the opposite side that's actually going to show is here, okay? Because we need to make sure that happens. I'm going to trim this up. I'm going to look at the back side and make sure that it lines up because I want it to line up. Okay. And it might be a little bit off. So you see that white there? So let's go ahead. I'm going to trim that. I'm going to match it up to here again and see what that looks like. Because I want everything to be nice and lined up. So I think I'm going to trim that just a little bit more. Okay. I want these to be matted perfectly. So that's why I'm being kind of particular about it. And let's make sure you're seeing me design. I got the idea in my head, but I didn't try it. So you're seeing how I'm doing it in real time. And that is almost perfect. Just a sliver. And we're going to ink too, so that'll be okay. All right. So now we've got the fronts and the backs. Get rid of that. And then I'm going to ink. That will hide anything extra. So I have those two pieces inked. So now let's put it together, okay? So here's the front. I want this fox on the front. Now let's see how it looks when we go to matte. Look how pretty perfectly that does line up. I mean, I just think that's really a cool thing. So I'm going to put glue on the back. Okay. And we're going to put that on here. Like so. Okay. I'm going to grab that. Magnet goes there. This is going to go in the middle, just like this. Okay, so we have to put this down and set our magnet. So again, when we line this up, it was at 4 7/8. And the bottom of this, let me double check and make sure that I am correct because I want to make sure. It was 4 1/8, so it's just a little past 2 inches that it was. Okay, so we're going to just glue that down on top of that flap on the left side. Okay, so I put it from the bottom. I looked at just past 2 1/8 because now we've got that piece cut off, right? So it's hard to find that upper piece. Okay, make sure that's glued down. That goes there. And then we're going to take this off. We're going to set our magnet. Okay, take that back off. And then I'm going to, because I like to do this, put a little extra piece of score tape over top of my magnets. I do that with my seam binding. I do it with my magnets. Sometimes I do a bigger piece, sometimes, you know, not, but I like to do that. Okay, and then this guy here is going to cover that. And look how perfect that is because we matched everything, right? Isn't that cool? So you kind of have to do it as you're doing it. You can't kind of do it after the fact, because you want to try to get everything, you know, as perfect as you possibly can, right? And these tags, as you saw, are not, you know, like super symmetrical. They're off just a little teeny tiny bit, or they can be. I shouldn't say that for all of them because I haven't done this trick a lot, but, you know, haven't ever done this trick ever, but all right. And there's that. So now you have this piece ready to go, and you have this cute little tag-shaped closure with the magnet, which I absolutely love. So that's the back of page 1. All right. So then let's go ahead and do page 2. We're going to start with the front of page 2, and this is pretty easy. And I did kind of design it to fit the cut-aparts. I really wanted to use these cut-aparts for flaps. So the front of page 2, you need 3 pieces that are 6 5/8 by 4 1/8. And I have those ready to go. And they are just simply scored 6 5/8 at the top, score at 1/2. They're all the same, okay? With all 3 of these pieces, you just need to miter, fold, and burnish. Okay, so, excuse me, we're gonna do that. I did end up using quite a bit of seam binding in this album. I tried a couple different closures, as you saw, but I also used quite a bit of seam binding. So I did go through my stash, and I did use some more seam binding that did not come in my design team package. So I'm using the moss, and then I'm using some brown as well. I am going to use some moss for this page. Okay, so we're going to grab the front of page 2. And the front of page 2 is really super simple. One is going to go at the top, one is going to flip from the bottom, and then one is going to go to the side, and it's going to have a seam binding closure for that, okay? So what we're going to do is first set our seam binding. I'm going to take that off because I did that wrong. Ay, 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 you guys. Okay, maybe it's time for a break. Okay, I am going to take off that score tape. I'll be right back. We're going to have a do-over here. We do not put the tape on here. We do put the tape here. And we are going to set this 4 7/8 from the center. That is the center. And we're going to lay this bad boy down. If I can get my fingers to work. And the center of this piece is just over 2 inches. And we're going to lay this bad boy down. Okay, just like that. The seam binding is not going to go around the whole thing. We're going to have it come off this side. That's where I goofed up. So, but it's okay. It's fixable, right? That's why I told you not to do what I was doing. All right, so again, we're going to find the center of this. I'll pull it up just a little bit. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to lay this down right here. That's where it's going to come out. Okay. Now it's right. Oh, gosh. Oh, sometimes my brain. I got too many things on my brain. So then that's where this is going to go. Okay. Let me grab a paper clip. And I'm just going to clip it there for now, just to keep it in place. Like so, okay? So that's where this piece is going to go, all right? So then we're going to turn it to its side, and we're going to center this. And the center of this page is 3 3/4. And we're going to put a flap at the top. Okay, so again, just past 2 inches is where the center will be. We're going to lay that down. Like that. And then I'm going to turn it so the bottom is up. And we're going to lay this down. Now we don't have to measure this. We can use the tag or the flip there to guide us. Just in case I set it off a little bit. I want it to match, right? And if they're both off, but they match, nobody's going to know, right? Okay, there we go. All right, so then this page will flip like this and tie there. Now, this is where that other 4x6 is going to be put. I really wanted my little fox there, and I wanted him peeking up above the camera. And I just thought that was adorable. So I'm going to grab another paper clip and just kind of make sure that he stays where he's going to be, and then that's going to tie there. So then turn this over. Let's work on the back side of this page. So on the back of this, we have a fun little flip pocket thing that we're going to do. So we're going to put a flap here with a pocket, and then we're going to have a closure that's kind of fun. So we have always done, or we have always, you know, had closures where you stick something in a pocket and that keeps the flaps closed. Well, we're going to do it this way, except it's going to be in a different orientation. So for the back of page 2, for the flap, you need a piece that's 5 by 6.5. For the pocket, you'll need a piece that's 2 by 7.5. And then for the booklet, you will need a piece that's 8.5 by 4.5. Okay, so we're going to take the piece that is, this one is the 5 by 6.5. We're going to put the 5 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2. We're going to have a pocket, 7.5 at the top. We're going to score at 1/2, at 7. We're going to turn it 2 inch at the top, score at 1/2. Okay, and then the booklet is 8.5 by 4.25. We're going to score at 4.25. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this. We can go ahead and, you know, fold and burnish your booklet. Okay, we're going to take our pocket. We're going to miter again. Like so. And then we're also going to take the flap that we did, and we're going to miter that. Okay, let's fold and burnish. This is our flap. This will be glued towards the spine of the back of page 2. Okay, then the pocket will fold and burnish. Because this pocket ends up only being 1.5 inches wide, I'm going to put pattern paper all the way in and cover all of the pieces. That's going to do a couple things. So we're not going to have to do the tape trick. It's going to strengthen this flap, and it's also going to strengthen the closure, okay? If we put this pocket on and then add the pattern paper all the way down in there. So it'll cover all of these, and then it'll also strengthen this closure, okay? And make it a little bit tighter and a little bit more durable, okay? So I'm just going to put glue on all of those 1/2 inch tabs. I turn that over and glue that down, okay? So I'm gluing it to the right side. And then just a reminder, you want that tab on the right side as well, okay? All right, grab your page. This is the back of page 2. We're going to center that and glue it to the right side, making sure that we don't encroach on anything over here, okay? So I'm going to put glue on this flap. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down so I can use my ruler and see it easier. So I've got my ruler. I want to make sure everything's centered. So again, the page is 4 7/8. This is going to center at 3 1/4. Okay, so 3 1/4 from the center, and then again, make sure that your page will still fold. Okay, and glue that flap down. Okay, so let's turn it back to the right orientation. So this is the back of page 2. Okay, how this is going to work is that this flap will go down first, this flap will go over, and then this goes into the pocket, which keeps this flap closed. Okay, once we get all the pattern papers on, it's going to be a lot thicker and it's going to work really nicely to keep this flap closed. And it's just another way to use one of those kind of ideas to instead of using magnets or ties or anything like that. Okay, so this is the back of page 2. The front of page 2 looks like this. Let's move on to page 3. The front of page 3, we're going to do a belly band, and it's going to be 2 1/4 by 10 3/4. A booklet that's 12 by 8, and then we're going to do a mat for one of our cut apart, or one of our die cuts, the chipboard die cut, that's 7 1/4 by 5 1/2. So let's just work on the front page at this time. Let's just put this off to the side, and we're going to grab our page, and again, the flap is folded to the back. Here's our spine pieces. We have our belly band. So we're going to get our scoreboard. We're going to put the 10 3/4 at the top. We're going to score at half, at 10 1/4, and then we're going to take our 12 by 6, or excuse me, 12 by 8, and we're going to score at 6. Okay? Then we're going to have that piece for our mat for our die cut. So this is 7 1/4 by 5 1/2. At the 5 1/2, we're going to score at 1/2. Okay, so we have all our scoring done for the front of page 3. So again, folding our booklet. Okay, we have our belly band. We're just going to fold and burnish. I'm not going to worry about mitering this one because it will be covered with pattern paper and it will be under the belly band, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I'm just going to leave that. And then we have our flap here. We are going to just fold and burnish. This is going to go behind our die cut. Okay, so we're just going to center this top and bottom and glue that down and be done with that. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to, getting myself tongue-tied. I think I need to take a break. Maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I need a vacation, but I am on vacation. We just started our vacation, so we're going to get our house painted. And we did bark dust. And, you know, we're doing things. We're having a staycation. So that's good, right? 2 1/8. Or excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm laying this down. I'm centering it. The center of the page is 3 3/4 from the center. This is going to go at 1 1/8 from the center. That's where that's going to do. And then I'm just doing the one side first, and then I'll go ahead and do this one. Sometimes when it's a longer belly band, it's easier for me to do just one side and then the other. Then I don't, you know, get it crooked or anything. All right, so the next thing we need is a piece of pattern paper to cover our belly band. So this is 9 5/8 by 2 1/8 because it is 1/8 of an inch smaller than the belly band piece that it's covering. So we're going to go ahead and put that on because we're going to add a little element that I thought would be fun to this. Okay. Okay. So we have this piece here. This is what I wanted to use to kind of do a little something different and fun for my belly band. And I am not sure. I think it's going to be too big. So we're going to doctor this up a little bit. We're going to change my mind. Okay, so again, we are going to alter this a little bit. So we're going to take my straight edge, and I apologize for this. So we're going to change the size of the mat a little bit. We're going to cut part of this off, which is the beauty of these things. You can alter these. You don't have to use them the same size, right? Okay, we're going to cut that. I'm going to keep my fox, and then I'm just going to go around like that. Now I'm doing it, you know, like a little bit at a time. I'm not trying to go through the whole thing at the same time, because if you do that, you're just going to get it messed up. So it might take a couple passes. All right, I'm going to take that part off, and then that will shorten that up just a wee bit. So let's measure this again. And 3 3/4. Okay, so go back. The piece for the mat now is too big. So what we're going to do is cut it at 3 3/4. Okay, so let me grab a pen. We'll write this down. So the mat will now be 3 3/4 by 5.5. Okay? All right. We'll save that piece because we could probably use it for something else. And we are going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to put a mat here. This is going to go on the belly band. Okay? So Mr. Fox's tail is going to stick out a little bit, but then this is where, you know, the booklet will go underneath there. Everything is going to look really cool. I think it's going to be really cool. You guys, I'm loving this. I'm loving this, and I love the fact that we're able to alter these frames and do different things with them. You don't have to use them the same way, you know, the same, or, you know, as they say, the same size. You can alter things, which is easy to do, right? It's easy to do. So I'm just going to glue that there. Okay, that's going to be our flip. Okay, and then we're going to glue this to here. Now you can't glue the whole thing down, because if you do, then you're going to have a mess, right? So we're just going to center that down the middle and glue that down. So I'm just going to put some glue down the middle. And I'm just going to eyeball center, I think. You can put it more towards the top if you want. You can put it more towards the bottom. Whatever works for you. Okay. And then I'm going to kind of go underneath and make sure that I didn't glue anything down I'm not supposed to, and I didn't. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to take some more of my score tape. Okay. I'm just going to rip it. I'm just going to rip it. And I'm going to put a few pieces here. Okay. Okay, so that once we get our picture in, we can go ahead and glue that down, right? And that will go onto our mat. Okay. And then I'm going to take some removable adhesive. Okay. And I'm just going to stick it to that mat so it'll kind of stay in place. And then this is where your booklet will go underneath. Okay. So that is the back of page 3. Or the front of page 3, excuse me. So the back of page 3. This is another one of the kind of hoping it works out. I think it will. I think it's going to be great. But we're gonna try this out. So the flap is 5 by 9 3/4, and then you're going to need 4 pieces that are 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. We are going to utilize our cute little 2 by 2 cut aparts for this. And then we need 2 pieces that are 4 by 6, okay? So let's do this. We folded, or, yeah, okay. So we've got the 5 by 9 3/4. We're going to score on the 5 at 1/2, okay? This is going to be a flap, okay? Like so, okay. Now, this flap is going to glue to this right side, so we're going to miter. I'm making a mess. Don't you love crafting, though? You start off with such a clean desk, and then it just turns into a mess, but it's like, you know, a happy mess, right? I'm putting glue, sorry, get in camera, putting glue right here. And I'm just going to glue it right to the edge where that give space score is. So again, making sure that everything can fold still. You can see my little booklets coming out from the other side. Okay, we're going to do that. All right, so this was an idea that I thought I would have. What I want to do is, you know how like we have the gatefold pockets at times where we put a little pocket here and put a little pocket here, and then we have, you know, like a card to hold everything shut. I thought it would be fun to see if we could do a double decker. Okay, so the 2 5/8 by 2 5/8, put them in your scoreboard, score at half, and then turn and score at half, okay? So we're going to need 4 of these total. 2 will be left-sided, 2 will be right-sided. So the left-sided, you'll have the scores here. The right-sided, you'll have the scores here. All 4 of them will need to be mitered, okay? And then you fold and burnish, and these are your cute little pockets, right? Now, we're going to do that to all 4 of them. So this is going to be my little left side one, okay? And I can see I did not cut that very well, so I'm going to trim that a little bit because otherwise it's going to bug me. Okay, and then the other thing I would like to do with these, which I think would be pretty, is grab my favorite little punch because I haven't used that yet. And I'm going to punch the corner that is away from the scores, so the outer kind of corner. And then the die cut that's going to go on top is 2 by 2, and I'm just going to punch that outer corner, okay? Like so, okay? Then I need to ink. Okay? And then we're going to glue those onto the pockets, and those will be ready to go. So you're going to need 2, you know, like left-sided ones and 2 right-sided ones. Okay, so those will go down like this. Now, before we can lay those down, we really need to put pattern paper on our flaps. So I am going to, so that'll go here. And this one is going to go here. I'll prepare that in just a second. I'm going to get some paper for these flaps, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my pieces prepared. I've got all my little pockets here, and I've got my tags that I'm going to use for closures. I have also picked my pattern papers, and this pocket could either go, you know, with the left side over or the right side over. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, I have my patterns picked. So we're going to start with the bottom pockets here. I am going to use some tape because we are over top of you know, pattern paper. And so these tags need to make sure that they go in. So I'm going to use a little bit of tape just to help make sure that, whoop, I shouldn't have stuck that down right away. We're going to use a little bit of tape to make sure, you know, that our tags don't get stuck. Okay. So I'm just going to put that down, and then we're going to glue those tags or tabs. Can't talk today. Okay, we're gonna grab our ruler and we're gonna go a 1/2 inch in and a 1/4 inch up and glue these first ones down, okay? So I'm going from the edge of my page, maybe, okay, and a 1/4 inch up. So 1/2 inch in, 1/4 inch up, and I'm gonna put that down, okay? Same thing on the other side. So I'm just gonna lay that ruler down and we're going to put some more tape on these, and I'm doing it on both just to make sure that nothing happens to my tags. Okay. Okay. 1/2 inch in, 1/4 inch up from the edge of the page, like so. Okay. All right. Your tag will slip right in there like so. Okay. So now we're going to put a second one in here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure up halfway up the page and we're going to put it at the halfway mark. Okay. So it'll be a 1/2 inch in again. We're going to line this up so that the bottom is that how we're going to do it? Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, let's just do that. Oh, a little extra. Yep, that's what we're going to do. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the second set in and we're going to measure yeah. We're going to go 5 inches from the bottom of the page. Okay, so 1/2 inch in, 5 inches up from the bottom of the page. And that's where we're going to place that. Okay, so again, my tape. And then my glue. Okay. My little mouse, isn't he cute? Okay, 1/2 inch in, 5 inches up from the bottom. We're going to go right there. Okay. Okay. 1/2 inch in, 5 inches from the bottom. Line that up. We've got our little piece here. More tape. I think this is going to be kind of cool. I like this idea. More tape. Do it that way. Talking to myself again. Okay. All right. 1/2 inch in, 5 inches from the bottom. We're going to pop that one down. Okay. And our second tag will fit in there, and that will keep everything closed. It's going to give you 2 more places to put photos. Kind of interesting and fun new idea to do, and I think I like it, and I think I'm off a little bit. Shoot. I'm going to raise that up a little bit because I think it's off. Be careful. Probably could have done it this way. Oh well. Yeah. Okay. Let's try that. Not sure how I got that as crooked as I did, but that's okay. But anyway, there you go. Oh, that's better. That's better. Okay. I like that. All right. So I just thought this was kind of a fun way to do it. Kind of a double pocket. And then it was just, the 2x2s are what really kind of made me think about doing this. So I wanted to try something different. Different way of using those 2x2s. Okay. That's the back of page 3. All right. So let's go to the front of page 4. So the front of page 4, oops, where's my card? We're going to need a piece that's 8.5 by 3.5. That will be for a pocket. We're going to put that in our scoreboard, and we're going to, on the 8.5, score at half and at 8, and then we're going to turn it on the 3.5 and score at 1/2. Okay. And then we're going to have a booklet that is 12 by 8. And again, on the 12, we're going to score it at 6. So this is just a simple page. Last page, flap to the back again. Okay. So we're going to have a pocket. And again, this is going to be a bottom pocket. And you see every page has something different, which I like. Okay. So let's do this now. Again, I will go ahead and do the tape trick because I want to just double check and make sure that if I don't have enough pattern paper to go all the way into the pocket, then my tags and stuff, my booklets are taken care of, right? So we're going to glue this down first. To the bottom of the page, okay, and we're going to go just right to that edge there, ta-da, like that. Okay, open that up, smooth that down, and then go ahead and grab your tape. Okay, and then we can go ahead and glue that up. Unfold that so I don't mess it up. Okay, and then the booklet, you guessed it, is going to go in that pocket. But I wanted to have lots and lots of places for lots and lots of photos, okay? Turn it over. Here's the back. So what we're going to do with it, we're going to do something fun with this. So I actually am going to do something a little bit different because as I was looking at this, it's not going to work the way I thought. So we are not going to use a magnet for this. Because it's just not going to work. So what we're going to do is turn it back to the front of page 4, and we're going to put a seam binding closure that'll wrap around to the back side of this page. So we're going to do, you know, the whole thing, center 4 7/8. We're going to put a piece of score tape there. And this will just wrap around to the other side. So again, this is stuff that I grabbed from my stash, another piece of seam binding that I grabbed from my stash. And this is the brown seam binding that I have from Country Craft Creations. So this is just gonna wrap around to the front, okay? So this booklet will still go in the front of page 4, and this will wrap around to the back, okay? Then we're gonna have the flap that we just made. Okay, and that's going to glue right to the inside right there. Okay, so we're going to put glue on that. I'm going to turn it around so I can see it better. And again, we're going to center. And this is 6.5, so we're going to center it at 3 3/4 inch in from the center, right? Making sure that we can still fold our page. Okay. Like that. So we have that flap. Okay. Then what we're going to do is I need pattern paper for this piece. So I will be right back. So I have the pattern paper. I picked out the polka dotted one. And we're going to put that on. But first what we're going to do is put our seam binding here. So we're going to have to center it to that. So, oh, my husband's home. I hear him. Okay. There's that. So let's get our seam binding piece that I picked out. Let's do this. All right. Then we will put some tape on there. And then we're going to put our pattern paper on top of that. Okay. Because we're going to work on that next little element, I got another frame that we're going to use on this flap. All right, so let's put that down. That'll be kind of the backdrop for the frame. So this, okay, so you guys, this frame, okay, so I wanted to use this frame here, but obviously it's pretty big and it's off kilter. So what I ended up doing was trimming it off. So I took this piece off of here, trimming it just like I showed you with the other ones. We're going to put that right there. Now, again, there is a couple things that we can think about. So it will hang off this side unless you scooch it over, but you're going to end up having to cut a lot of this over or off, and I didn't want to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ink the back of this. Okay, so I inked everything and I inked the back of that so that when we put it down, then you'll just see kind of inked chipboard, which I like better than plain chipboard. Okay, so then we need the mat to go behind there. So I cut a piece that is 4 1/4 by 4 1/2. And on the 4 1/4 side, we're going to score at 1/2, like so. Okay. And then we're going to fold and burnish that. And then this is going to go right, excuse me, right to the edge there, so it'll open up this way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue right to the edge. Okay, right to that straight edge. Okay, all the way. Okay, and then let's see, before we glue it down, we could go ahead and put our score tape. Now don't go all the way to the edge because that's going to stick out, right? So we want to make sure we don't do that. Okay, so when that closes, there you go. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and glue that down. Okay, so we'll get our piece. I'm going to put it over to the side just a little bit. Okay, because when that flap opens up, that's what you're going to see, okay, once it's glued down, right? But your picture, you'll be able to pop it in there, take the score tape off, and then glue that down, okay? So, there is that. Okay, so then this will close with a tie here, and that is done. So the last thing to do is to put all the pages in our book, and then I can go back and put the pattern papers on and then show you what that looks like when I'm done with that. So let's grab our book. I chose the polka dotted paper for the spine, so I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on there. And glue that down. And this is 2.5, like minus a 1/16, and it is 9 7/8 inch tall to cover the inside spine. Okay, all right, so then we're going to put our pages in. So this is the lay flat method. What I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open this flap just because I want to make sure that little wing is out of my way. And what we're going to do is measure in 1/2 inch from the spine and from where that spine goes. So just past the pattern paper is where that spine fold is, and we're going to start laying these down, and they're going to be about an inch, or excuse me, about 1/8 inch from the bottom of our book. So we're going to have just a little bit of pattern paper peeking out the top and the bottom, okay? So when you do this, you're just going to glue on that 1/2 inch line. This is page 1, and we're going to put glue down that 1/2 inch. Okay, and I've got everything lined up. I'm just double checking here. And we're going to go and lay that down right there. Making sure everything looks lined up. I think it does. And I'm going to press that down like so, okay? Now once you measure the one time, you don't have to do it again because everything will just line up next to each other, okay? So I'm going to take this next piece, and again, I'm going to just put glue on there and line that up, and I'm going to butt it right up against that 1/2 inch there, okay? So I'm just going to put glue on that 1/2 inch. Now I've got all the things in the pockets and all that. If you want to take them out and just have your pages, you can do that. I'm kind of living on the edge here, doing that. Leaving them in the pockets and trying to hold everything in place. So I'm just going to put that right up against. Kind of finger press that down. Try and make sure everything's lined up. And like so. Okay. Third page. Same thing. We're going to line that up right to the edge. Okay. So I'm going to turn that over. So we've, done an album. We've got a couple different little closure kind of ideas, different ways to use the tags that come in the Simple Stories kits, couple different ways to use those 2x2s. And I think it turned out really cool. All right, the last page lays down a little bit differently. If you lay it down like this, then what happens is you cover up your pattern paper that you put on your spine. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to flip that 1/2 inch the other kind of direction, and we're going to lay it right on top of the tab that we just laid down, okay? Then that way, I lay it down, over top, then we still have our pattern paper showing, okay? So that's what we're going to do with that. And maybe I will take those out. And I think I'm also going to put a paper clip here just to kind of hold that shut. That'll probably help. Okay, so that's what I was trying to say, is put it over top of the tab we just laid down, and then you'll have your pattern paper showing here, okay? So we're going to put glue on this side. Okay. And lay that right there. And don't go into, you know, go just a hair past the score for that give space for the previous page, okay? You've got plenty of room to do that. Okay. Then you can go back and give everything a really good press. And you've got a beautiful, beautiful binding there. Okay, so there is your book. It is all in there. And I'm going to close all these things. We'll do a quick run through. And then that is the end of the tutorial. You've already seen the walkthrough, so you can go back and see how I decorated everything. But I'll be right back and I'll show you kind of what this looks like right now. All right, so I fibbed a little bit because we have to finish the front. So I'm going to open this up so that it's flat, and we're going to finish this up, okay? So easy. You just have to glue that there and glue that there. So that's pretty simple. Now, obviously, I'm going to still decorate and put a bunch of pattern papers on. So, you know, you will have seen that already in the entire walkthrough, and it's all going to be beautiful, and I think it's going to work out really well. So I'm just putting glue on the back of this, and I want to try and make sure I get some glue on that, because that's important. Okay, make sure my butterflies are in the right direction, and just pressing that down, making sure that everything is all nice and glued down. I want to make sure these tops here underneath where that ribbon is folded under is nice and glued too. So press that down, okay? Then on the front, literally you're just going to glue this down, okay? So we're just going to put that on the center and glue it down. If I can get this score tape off. Okay, there we go. And so, okay, now I'm going to go back and do all the pattern papers that you have already seen and how this album actually finished up, okay? I really hope you liked this tutorial. I tried to think of some different things to do. I tried to think of kind of a big album that would work really well for a big trip, or maybe even a whole summer's worth of trips. You know, there's lots of room, and I am going to stick that right there. Cut that off before it ravels anymore. I am going to go back through this with you real quick, but here is this, and then yeah, go back to the walkthrough and you can see all the pattern papers I chose for everything. But I just think this is really a fun album, and I hope that it gave you some different ideas on how to use some of these items. So again, the front cover here will open up, and again, you will have a place to put your photo, and then you can glue it down after the fact. But then you also have this interactive piece with the waterfalls on the front, okay? which will hold a lot of photos, and then it'll tie closed, and then you'll open this up. You will have this piece here. So again, it's set so you have another place to put your photos, and then this will open up and be kind of a nice folio. So I'm thinking of putting, you know, that paper here, and then having the butterfly papers here on the fronts, and then I'll finish that up later, but that's what's going to happen there. And then that'll close up like so, and then tie, and then you have your page here with your photo mat. You have a magnet closure here where we made that little tag closure, and then there's a flap and another place to put lots of photos. Then you have this area here that unties, and you'll have photo opportunities here, here, and then all through here. So that is really a cool thing. I'll tie that later. Then you have this section here. This is held together with this tag here, and then it comes out, and then you have the flip here and here. So another, you know, way to close a pocket. And then you have your belly band here, and you have the frame ready to go for your photo, and then you have your booklet underneath. Then you have your double tag pocket closure that opens up like so, which I think is kind of a fun idea. You'll have to let me know what you think. I was just trying to think of some new things. Simple pocket here with the booklet. And then last but not least, we have another kind of a flappy page with another one of the photo frames, because I was really trying to, you know, use them in different ways. And again, I've got it paper clipped because you can put your photo there, and it was getting in my way when I was binding, but there you go. So that page like that. So that is what I've got for you today. Oh, in the pocket, the last but not least, a really cool little way of using our envelope punch boards to make some really pretty little different pockets, and a different way of doing that. So big booklet, and then the two smaller booklets here. So I hope you like the tutorial. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy making it. Go to Country Craft Creations at countrycraftcreations.com. Check the links below. I've got links for all of this stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.